Okay, welcome to the Chapter 5, Section 1, Interactive Programming Presentation Lecture for Alice. As we get into some more complex programming concepts, what you're going to see is some different ways to help a programmer, some different tools that can be used to put the program code in proper format to make it easier for flow, as well as make it easier to modify if execution errors are starting to show. So if we take a look at control of flow, this is how the sequence of actions in a program is controlled. So it's very important that when you're writing a program that obviously you have certain events taking place first and then second and then third. And you probably would want to write the code in that manner so that you stay also in tune with how the program is going to flow as you write it. Now, what action happens first, what happens next, and then what happens and so on is kind of what we just discussed. Now, in chapters 1 through 4, we talked exclusively about movie programs. This is the sequence of action is determined by the programmer. So you create the storyboard design as you have, and then you write the program methods to carry out in the design sequence. In interactive programming, that's a little bit different. We'll take a look at that here shortly. Interactive animations. An interactive program is a sequence of actions is determined at runtime. So we don't know exactly how the program is going to run or how it is going to execute because it's going to depend upon how the user inputs. So as different interactive events, we could have a mouse click, we could have a key on the keyboard or some other source of input. In essence, control of flow is now in the hands of the user. No longer is it in control of the programmer. An event is what we're going to be working with in Chapter 5. Each time a user provides some sort of input, we call this an event. An event is something that happens, dictated by the user, looking for a desired response from the program. We write then what we call event handling methods to handle this. An event may possibly trigger a response, or it could move objects into position that creates some condition. Maybe we have a collision function that we want to write with some type of an expression that might trigger a specific response. A method is called to carry out the response. We can call that kind of method an event handling method. So we have methods, we have class level methods, now we have event handling methods. And then when an event is linked to a method that performs an action, then we consider this to be a behavior. So just in terms to keep in mind and get familiar with as we go through in-class examples and as you go through the labs and assignments throughout Chapter 5. These are some of the terminology that we'll be using in our discussions, as well as questions that I might be asking you if you need help or if you're trying to work through some issues with some of your programs. I'll be using this terminology, so you're going to want to be familiar with it. An example that we are going to look at, build an air show air flight simulator. There's a program I'm going to show you and how it works. It's very basic, and it's going to illustrate to you how a particular object within a program is going to be manipulated in the program by the user, by those different input controls. So this biplane is going to perform some different acrobatic stunts. Now the problem is that the whole idea in the flight simulator is to allow the user to control a flight path. That's what we want it to do. However, the problem is how do we write our program code to provide a guidance system that allows the user to be the pilot? So that's definitely going to be an issue that needs to be looked at and resolved. The solution is to use the keyboard input. So we're going to give the user some power here. The up arrow is going to move the plane forward. The space bar is going to make the biplane do the barrel roll. Now, one thing to note here is that other sets of keys could be used. We just arbitrarily picked those couple of keys to use for the storyboard on the keyboard. But you could use the number 9 or the letter P or whatever you want to use if you want to enact that action. So we're going to write an event handler method that responds to each key press. So if we do this, we want to storyboard both of those methods. So the event handler is going to be spacebar press and then up arrow key press. The spacebar press, we're going to use a do together control structure that's going to roll the biplane a full revolution and play the biplane engine sound. Now, on the other end of it, the up arrow key press, the response is going to be the do together in a do together control structure, the move biplane forward and play the engine sound. Each storyboard is going to outline an event handler that responds to a particular event. All right, let's take a look at this and see exactly what it's going to look like. All right, so here's the biplane world. You can see up here in this area, here are the events. And if we have the events defined, then we are going to use the arrow keys to move the biplane and then use the space bar to make the biplane barrel roll. So if I play it, right now nothing happens. Nothing's going to happen until myself as a user interacts with the program. So if I hit my up arrow key, the plane moves forward. If I hit my back arrow key, it moves backward. If I hit the space bar, the plane barrel rolls. So the program is going to do nothing until the user indicates some code should be executed, which is different from a movie. Again, the user is going to interact with the program and is going to dictate when the program should be executed, not the programmer. So that's different from a movie. All right. So when we take a look at that, some of the concepts illustrated in this demo that the events are created in the event editor. The method is then called to handle each event, and then synchronizing the duration of the animation with the length of a sound. Now to change this length of a sound, we can use auto editing software, or we can just analyze or change how long the sound is to be played when the action is used, when the action is executed. All right, so after taking a look at that demo, in the next class period, we will be using that time to go through an interclass example. In-class example, and then if you have not done so, please make sure that you read Chapter 5, Section 1 on interactive programming. After we have done that and gone through the in-class example, you will then be assigned Chapter 5, Lecture 1, Lab. All right, so that concludes the Chapter 5, Section 1 presentation lecture. If you have any other questions, feel free to indicate them to me in class. Otherwise, feel free to review any of the slides and this presentation as many times as needed. We'll see you in the next class.